If LinkedIn is your main platform, but you're not getting any leads from it, chances are you don't have a visibility or a content problem. What you actually have is a funnel problem. And in this video, I'm going to show you a simple 5-step process that I would use if I was starting LinkedIn again to generate between 5 and 7 leads per day. Not random views or vanity engagement, but actual qualified people that move into your world in a really meaningful way. Now, if that sounds like something that would benefit you and your business, I need you to do 2 things. The first thing, drop the word funnel in the comments so that I know that you're here and you're watching. The second thing I need for you to do is to subscribe to this channel. Oh, and like while you're there as well. But subscribe so that when I put out new videos around LinkedIn, around visibility, around female entrepreneurs who don't know how to market themselves, you'll get notified and you can engage, you can get the help that you need on this platform. And if you actually want real support with this stuff, then I would suggest you join my free community, the LinkedIn Strategy Lab. I'll tell you more about that later on into the video, but let's get into it, right? How is it that you can generate 5 to 7 leads per day with a simple funnel? And when I say funnel, you may or may not know what that means. A funnel, you may hear it referred to as a pipeline or a customer journey. Essentially, it's the steps that somebody takes from initially discovering you to ultimately becoming a client, right? And there's steps in between. So that is essentially what a funnel is. And we need to set up that process, that journey on LinkedIn. Otherwise, we feel like we're just spinning our wheels and not actually getting the results that we hope for. So if you are tired of posting and hoping and praying, right? Stick with me, because by the time you get to the end of this video, you're going to have a really good understanding of how you can build your own funnel on LinkedIn. You're also going to really understand the mistakes and how to avoid them, and how to ensure that you're not leaking leads, which most people are actually doing, and then wondering why LinkedIn feels hard and feels heavy. Also, what I need for you to know, and you will by the end of this video, it's never just a content problem, right? We can put out the most amazing content, but if there's not a process for the audience, the reader of your content, then you fall into that trap of just leaking leads. Now, let me be clear. When I say 5 to 7 qualified leads, hear me, I'm not saying 5 to 7 people that are buying from you daily, right? There's a difference. This is 5 to 7 people who have raised their hands and expressed some level of interest or intent. And what does that look like? It could look like them downloading your free resource, your lead magnet. It could look like them registering to attend a workshop or an event that you're hosting. It could look like them engaging with you in a conversation in the comments. Or maybe it could look like maybe they subscribe to your email newsletter. That is somebody who is expressing, as I've said, a level of interest or intent. It's not somebody buying from you, right? There's some more steps to get to that point. But this is ultimately what a lead looks like. I was about to say qualified, but we haven't qualified them just yet. At this point, they are a lead. And this is a mindset shift probably for a lot of you watching this video, right? Because what you've focused on and what you've been optimizing for is just views, just likes on your content, right? You have not focused on actually the movement that has to happen. Like, what is the action? What is the activity that moves somebody from passively consuming your content to actually taking an action? If this is resonating, like, let me know in the comments. Let me know where you are. Have you focused purely on likes? Have you focused purely on the impressions, and then just assume that from that people would take out their debit card and purchase your service? I'm being flippant, but I think for a lot of solopreneurs, a lot of coaches, consultants, we think, oh, we've put out a really valuable post. Why are people not buying? As I said, there's a couple more steps that has to happen, and we'll get into the detail as I outline these simple 5 steps that you need to have in place on your LinkedIn profile. And this is one of the mistakes that I want to call out here, because a lot of people get stuck in thinking that the goal is attention, right? Having people give you their eyeballs. And that's not actually the goal. The goal is movement. It is about getting them to, as I've said, take some kind of action. And the good news is that you don't need a complicated funnel. You don't need all the bells and whistles, but you do have to think about the journey that someone goes from first discovering you to actually becoming a paid client. Another mistake that I see is that, well, 2 things. The first one is that they are just posting and hoping that something's going to happen. I spoke to that previously. The second mistake is doing outreach, right? So whether they are sliding into DMs, sending cold emails, they're doing outreach with no actual structure, with no system behind them. So they post, wait a bit, send a few DMs, feel a little bit awkward, disappear from LinkedIn, and then start the process again. I'm sure you've heard the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and hoping for a different outcome. That is not a funnel. What that is activity. And activity without structure is one of the biggest reasons that people feel that LinkedIn doesn't work, that it's hard and heavy. But let me tell you, it absolutely can work. It's working for me, it's working for my clients, right? Because what we're doing is creating a process that traffic, that attention actually has somewhere to go. If you do not have next steps, if you don't have signposts to what the next thing is, then it's a dead end, right? So let's break down the funnel. And if you are still here, I'm glad, because this is the point where I need for you to pull out your notebook, whether you take notes on your phone or on your computer, pull out whatever mode you use to take notes, because this is really where the value is and what I want for you to go and actually take action on. So step one is all about traffic, right? And traffic is attention, it's eyeballs, it's how people discover you on LinkedIn. And traffic on LinkedIn can come from a number of different sources. So, yes, it could be from a content piece, a post that you put on the platform. It could come from a comment, right, that you have left on somebody else's content. It could come from a newsletter, if you have a LinkedIn newsletter, maybe an event that you host, or maybe an event that you attend on LinkedIn. Maybe it comes from your profile being presented as a result in a search appearance. So somebody has put in a particular keyword and you have that keyword in your profile. LinkedIn then surfaces your profile as a result to that search, right? So I'm just calling out some of the ways in which you can be discovered on the platform, right? And I hope you're getting, traffic comes in multiple different directions. So most people think that it is only by content, that just by posting, that is enough. And yes, for the most part, for most people, it will be their content. But your content has to have something that makes somebody curious. It makes them want to know more about you and what you do. It has to trigger them to come over to your profile to check you out, right? So just creating educational content without relevance is an error that I see, again, a lot of people making. So it should cause the person to think, like, this is absolutely for me. Like, she's speaking to me. She understands my problem. She, like, literally is in my head and is calling me out. That is the type of content that you want to create on LinkedIn, because that is what gets people to take action. That's what gets them to check out your profile or to send you a DM to connect with you. So that is the job of the traffic layer, right? It's not to close a sale at this point, but what it is to create movement, right? It's to get people to take action. So what I need for you to do at this point is to ask yourself, right? How am I getting the right people to notice me consistently on LinkedIn, right? Does my content have that element of curiosity? Does it speak to the relevant problem that your ideal client is experiencing? And if I'm honest, a lot of people just need to slow down when it comes to LinkedIn, right? They're doing the most and not really assessing like where their traffic is coming from. They have no idea. And then they end up relying on a random post, one random post, and thinking, I posted, like, why am I not getting clients? Why am I not getting leads? So that's the first gap. That is the first gap. Step two, right? So we have figured out where our traffic's coming from in step one. Step two is all around your profile. And this is where people are actually losing leads that they didn't even realize that they had. So somebody sees your content, or maybe they've seen a comment that you've left, they've come over to your profile, and your profile, if you didn't know, is a part of your funnel. It's a part of your pipeline. It's not just a digital CV. It's not just a list of all of your accolades. When somebody lands on your profile, they should be able to know in a very short amount of time, right? Who you are, what you do, who you help, the results that you get for somebody. And then, most importantly, the next step that they can take if they are a good fit, right? If what they've read aligns with a problem or an aspiration that they are trying to fix. So, your headline, your photo, your banner, your about section, your featured section. These areas are key for business owners, really essential that you have optimized them. You've used the right keywords for the humans and for the algorithm, right? Your profile should be doing the work. It should be doing the heavy lifting for you. You've called them over to your profile. So now, like, give them the goods, right? Let them know the detail about you and the awesome work that you do. Because if your profile is vague, it's outdated, it doesn't articulate clearly everything that I mentioned before, right? That is where your funnel breaks. And that is where you lose the leads you didn't even realize that you had. So in this funnel, your profile is literally the bridge between visibility and action. LinkedIn's own data for 25-26 shows that fully optimized profiles are 40 times more likely to get opportunities than those that are not. And a complete profile, I think it gets something like 21 times more views and an exponential increase in terms of messages. So I hope you're picking up what I'm putting down, that optimizing your profile is not a nice to do, it's an essential. And for coaches and consultants who are over the age of 40, let me just speak to you super quickly here, right? Because this is where we've got an unfair advantage. This is where that comes in, our real world expertise, our lived experience, the different roles and titles that we've held, right? So your about section, your headline should be weaved with all of that richness. So as I said, it's not just about having a digital CV. Really, it's a trust accelerator. So those young whippersnappers who are just figuring it out, right? We've got the advantage, we've got the head start on them. So don't feel that your age is a barrier to your success. It's actually the thing that is going to accelerate you. So make sure that you're calling all of that goodness out in your LinkedIn profile. That is why I would never separate profile strategy from a lead gen strategy. They belong together. They have to work in tandem. They have to work hand in hand. If you have one without the other, then like you're not going to get the results that you need. So go and have a look at your profile and let me know in the comments, right? Is your profile doing the heavy lifting? Is it doing the job that it should be? I would love to hear what you share in the comments, because that is a major bottleneck for most people. And if you do need support with that, that's exactly the type of work that I'm helping members in the LinkedIn Strategy Lab, my free community that I host on a platform called School. And actually, if you'd like me to do a video on School, just drop School in the comments. I'm happy to do that and to share my experience. But if you know that you need support with your profile on LinkedIn, with your content, with building a funnel, a pipeline, with converting those nurtured prospects into clients, then hop into the LinkedIn Strategy Lab. We've got almost 250 entrepreneurs in there now. You know what is one of the most beautiful things? When you have other people who are also moving in the same direction, who are also overcoming the challenges potentially that you will face, and are able to share with you what they've done, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and to celebrate each other. So it is a really positive space, and I would love to see you in there. Check the caption for the link for you to join. But let's get on to step 3. So step 3 is a low friction way in which you can give somebody a next step, right? So they've discovered you, they've come over to your profile, right? And what often happens, the mistake that most people fall foul of, is that they don't have a next step. They don't have, the signpost for what somebody should do now they've discovered you. This person has landed on your profile with a level of interest, and there's nowhere for them to go, right? There's no resource, there's no join my wait list, there's no sign up for my upcoming webinar, there's nothing. So they then just scroll away. But not everyone, I'll say this here, not everybody is ready to buy from you, right? Not everyone is going to jump straight into your DMs and have a conversation and ask how they can work with you. So at this point, what you need is a low friction next step, something that they can easily download and access. So I mentioned a free resource, a lead magnet. Maybe it's a checklist, maybe it's a pre-recorded video. Maybe the free resource is an app that you've created, something that somebody can access without too much effort. And the point here isn't to throw random freebies at people. It's to offer something that is connected to the problem, the pain point, the aspiration that they're already thinking about. So for me, as a LinkedIn and a visibility strategist, a low friction next step could look like a checklist, perhaps with a visibility framework, or maybe a app that they can download with a lead kind of generation guide, as an example. Essentially, it's where someone stops becoming just a consumer of your content and they move into becoming a lead, right? They've opted in, they've raised their hand, they've signaled a level of interest, right? So this is what we're going for, not just attention, we're going for movement, we're going for activity. So I would love for you at this point to check your profile, right? Do you have clear next steps? Is there a low friction way in which somebody can access some resources, access more of you and what you do super easily? Let me know in the comments what that looks like for you. All right, so step 4 now. This is the conversation trigger. And a lot of people kind of get this wrong because they assume that this is where the funnel begins. But if you haven't done steps 1 to 3 correctly, if you haven't allowed them to do their job properly, then this step, you can't just jump to step 4, right? You have to have done steps 1 to 3, because this is where someone moves from just a quiet interest to actual interaction, right? So whether that is by a DM reply, or maybe they respond to your low friction resource, or maybe they reply to an email that you've sent. The key thing is that you're not forcing a cold conversation, right? You're continuing a warm one, right? That is very different, because someone who has already seen your content, they've visited your profile, they've consumed something from you, the conversation feels much more natural. It feels like a logical next step. And lead generation as a strategy just doesn't feel as pushy, as awkward and uncomfortable, because we're just having a conversation by this point. And really, what I love about this point is that they are an educated buyer, right? They are um, educated in the sense that they understand you and what you do. So they are definitely no longer just a cold lead. So if you're doing a lot of outreach and you're not getting much back, right, the issue may not be the DMs that you're sending. It could be, and I'll get into DM strategy in another video, but it's most likely the fact that the trust hasn't been earned at that point, right? You've sent this DM and they have no idea who you are. They don't know you from a packet of crisps, right? So that is the shift, right? We need to ensure that we have warmed people up via steps 1 to 3 before we're having those DM conversations. Now, the fifth and final step is all around qualification. Not everybody that comes into your world is an actual qualified lead. So, yes, they've engaged with your content, maybe they've had a conversation in the DMs, but you need to ask yourself at this point, right? Is there an alignment? Do they have the problem that I solve? Do they have like the right level of intent? What is their stage? As an example, I'm thinking like if you work with entrepreneurs who are further into building their business, right? And somebody who is just at the very beginning, they're not at the right stage. So they're not qualified for the work that you do. They're not qualified for the results that you aim to get for somebody. So these are the kinds of questions that you need to ask in relation to these leads that you're generating. There needs to be some kind of qualification process, because otherwise you end up spending large amounts of time on people who were never going to become a client, right? They just weren't qualified to work with you. So, yes, we want 5 to 7 leads per day, but the point isn't about volume. We want to be building systems that bring in the right people consistently. And if you're still here, let me know. Drop in the comments, right? Where is the weakest part in your business on LinkedIn? Is it your traffic? Is it your profile? Is it the next step low friction offer that you have? Is it the conversations, or maybe the qualification, right? You have no qualification process. Let me know in the comments where there's a gap in how you're using LinkedIn. Now, please don't hear everything that I've said and then fall foul of the biggest mistake that I see. People hear these steps and then they think, I need to go away and work on my content, right? That is their initial response to this information. And I'll tell you now, what you need to work on first is your funnel. Because once the structure is in place, your content has somewhere to send people to. Because without that, you are just creating attention, making potentially noise, and not actually having somewhere to send someone to. And that is super exhausting, right? Because you're getting engagement, but you're not getting leads. This is where people tell me, like, people are seeing my stuff, they're engaging, but they're not inquiring. I'm visible, but I'm not converting. And usually that means that there's no clear pathway. And so if you have been posting and posting and posting, but you don't have a pathway, there's not a process, a journey that somebody can take, this is a sign that you need to get out of the activity trap and actually build a structure, a real structure that somebody can follow. So if I was building this out this week, the simple 5 things that I would do, the first thing would be to decide my traffic source, right? Most likely it's going to be content paired with comments. And we'll get into that in another video because commenting is equally as important as your content. But yeah, decide on your traffic source. The second thing would be to tighten my profile, right? Make sure that it speaks clearly to the right people. Make sure that it speaks to the transformation that I can get. The third thing that I would do would be to create a low friction resource that is relevant to my ideal client's problem. I would make sure that it could get them a quick win. It isn't, a 50-page PDF because nobody's got time for that. Nobody's going to read it. I want to get you a quick win so that we can move on to the conversations. So my next step would be to decide how I want to trigger those conversations. Is it by DMs? Is it replies? Is it an application process? Is it an event follow-up? What does that look like? And then the fifth and final thing I would do is decide what makes somebody a qualified lead for me, right? Specifically, what is that qualification criteria that they would need to meet in order to be a good fit for us to work together? That alone is going to make LinkedIn start working more strategically for you and your business. And I really want to say this clearly. Please do not just watch this and move on. Actually, do something with the information that you've received, right? Pick one part of your funnel and improve it this week, because this is how it all starts to work when you actually take action. Feel free to drop in the comments for accountability. Let us know what you're going to be working on, what your goal is, and what you're planning to fix. And once you've tackled those 5 areas that we've gone through, this is when those 5 to 7 leads start coming into your business with ease, right? Without you having to spin yourself in knots trying to create content every day, sending multiple DMs, sending multiple cold emails, right? Let all of those steps that we've gone through do the heavy lifting for you. If this video was helpful, please make sure that you've subscribed. Please make sure that you have liked. Share it with your business bestie. Don't just keep all this good information to yourself. And if you want support in building this out properly, hop into the LinkedIn Strategy Lab. This is where I'm able to help you to build out these processes, to audit your profile, to give you feedback. And just collectively as a community, we're doing the work and seeing the results. So yeah, the link will be below, but I look forward to seeing you in my next video.